Do you remember that time we had Thankstinis at my house?
I do. I remember that we got the vodka and the cranberry juice and the bouillon cube, and I drank mine very, very quickly because I was nervous that it would be terrible. And it was. It was terrible. Like, I enjoyed the experience. I'm glad that we did it.
It was a group project.
It tastes bad.
Yeah. I sipped mine a little slower than you did, and it's Barney's idea that it tastes just like a turkey dinner is complete horseshit. It's vodka cranberry. It's exactly what he says it is. And then if you didn't chug it, then the bouillon cube would dissolve a little bit.
Right.
Because they're meant to be dissolved in hot water, not cold vodka. By the end of it, there's just a little bit of it dissolved, and it's nice and chunky and pasty and yuck.
And then what are you supposed to do with the bouillon cube? Like, pour yourself another drink and dissolve it some more?
I don't know. Chew it up if you're a daredevil. This is Himium Superfans. Hey there, Chris Venezia.
Hello, James Hamilton.
And hello, Mother fans. This is the show where we talk about the CBS comedy How I Met Your Mother.
And this week we are going to ruin the show for you.
And by ruin it, of course, we mean we're going to spoil plot points for the entire series.
Right, because even though we're only doing the first season, we will have spoilers for the rest of the show. So if you don't want to know that Marvin, wait for it, Eriksen takes the gold in the inaugural Basque Ice Ball game of the 2032 Olympics, then maybe come back to this podcast once you've watched the whole series.
Holy shit, you did some math for that, didn't you?
I did. I had to figure out how old Marvin would be.
So on this episode, we're talking about Belly Full of Turkey, a.k.a. this is what New Yorkers think of Midwesterners. It's the first season, obviously, episode 9, and it was originally aired November 21st, 2005.
It's 20,005.
Written by Chris Miller and Phil Lord. You've heard their names before. They've done some great episodes. And of course, this one was directed by Pam Deep Fried Turkey Fryman.
Very good. So, Lily spends Thanksgiving with the Eriksens. Ted and Robin try to volunteer at a soup kitchen and discover that Barney is secretly being charitable.
Yeah, this is the first time Ted and Robin team up, spend a lot of time together since the pilot. It's sort of like a pseudo date because they're kind of flirty.
They are. I did notice that. It's kind of got a date vibe to it.
And it's one of our first family holiday episodes, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, those kinds of holidays. Not like Halloween, which we saw in the Slutty Pumpkin.
So James, what was your most memorable moment?
Well, I'm glad you asked because I love the cinematography in this series, and they really show off in this episode with this push-in, pull-back, Hitchcockian camera move where Lily's face gets bigger and the background gets farther away as they're talking about the turkey being the size of a baby.
Yep, by the time the shot's done, the turkey is just massive in the frame.
Yeah, it's bigger than her head.
Mm-hmm.
What did you remember most?
Well, now that I've seen the whole series, what's most memorable about this episode to me is that we first hear the mother's name, for serious.
For real.
When you're watching it in season 1, you're like, aha, Tracy, maybe that's the name. Oh, it turns out it is. That's actually, I don't know if the writers wanted to do a throwback to this moment, or if they'd been planning it since this moment, or before the show even started, if they had the name Tracy written down on a note card pinned to a bulletin board. But you do get to learn that the mother's name is Tracy in this episode.
That makes me think of the finale when they have that scene between Tracy and Ted on the train platform, and they have the whole thing about the initials being TM. They have the same initials. So I like that because, it does lend some credence to the idea that they had the name picked out by season 1.
Yeah, I liked that scene. Yeah, it's you're terribly mistaken, Ted Mosby, because this umbrella has always belonged TM to me.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
So let's jump into the show.
All right, so it begins with the Thankstini cranberry juice potato vodka bouillon cube concoction that Barney had created. And like I said, it doesn't taste anything like a turkey dinner.
No, but I would try his Kwanzaapolitan.
That does sound good.
So my question is, why is Robin not there for the Thankstini?
She must have been working.
It must have been working. I feel like it was so that they could give an explanation of, what they did the night before. Because Lily comes out and she's like, well, I just Ralphed. And if Robin had been there, she wouldn't have, well, why would that be?
Right. So Marshall is very excited to go back home to Minnesota. He hasn't been back there since the previous Christmas. And we learned later that he's very close to his family. Like, they even do that joke later in the series where he's doing Eriksen family dinner every night via Skype.
Yeah, like on the Sunday night dinner, and he's holding two mannequin arms,
right? Yeah,
so that he feels like he's a part of the hand holding part of the ceremony before the eating,
like a prayer, pre dinner prayer. Yeah,
yeah. And Ted knows Lily's relationship with the Eriksens already. He also knows that Robin doesn't know it, so he starts goading Lily into giving information to Robin about not really feeling like she fits in.
Yeah, and I love the smirk on Ted's face when he delivers that line. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, and Lily, it kind of does too. Like, she's got a good attitude about it. She's like, yeah, no, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, she's got a good attitude about it. Like, I mean, she knows, and Ted knows. Everybody knows. It's not something that Marshall likes to probably admit.
Right. So, since Lily and Marshall are heading off to Minnesota, Ted and Robin decide to spend Thanksgiving together. Since Ted has to work, Robin's Canadian, which is the first time we've learned that.
That is the first time that we learned that Robin is Canadian this episode.
And they don't waste any time with the Canada jokes.
No, just dive in, both feet.
Mm-hmm. And Robin responds with just facts about America that are embarrassing. So she ultimately gets the last laugh, but not before Ted tries to get the last laugh with, oh, your cops are called Mounties.
Mounties. So they decide that they're going to go volunteer to shelter. It seems like the nice thing to do, cancel out Barney and whatever he's doing, because he said he was going to be at a strip club. It turns out that he's not, but we'll get there. I want to point out that when they get to the shelter, that everybody that comes in either already has on their powder blue Hungry Hands shirt, or if they're coming in after Ted and Robin, they have shirts with them that they put on.
Yeah.
So it's like they've been there before, and it just really makes Ted and Robin stand out like they don't belong there.
I love the scene because there's so many actors in the scene, and they're like you said, they're all wearing the t-shirt, but there's our two characters, Ted and Robin. So they stand out. They're in a very living type of scene, a very high production. I think it just goes back to another example of why the show has high production values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So we find out that Barney has been volunteering for a year.
We find out that he's actually been compelled by a judge to volunteer. But Barney does it with a genuinely good attitude. Like, Kendall likes him. All the people seem to like him. He's actually good at scooping stuffing. Maybe it brings back his fond memories of his hippie days, before he became evil Barney. He never got to go to Nicaragua and help the Nicaraguans.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, he didn't get to do that, and that seemed like something that he was passionate about before Shannon and Greg destroyed his life.
Exactly.
And changed who he was as a person. Yeah, he was like that. He did enjoy working at the coffee shop, and he did enjoy, giving people smiles and things like that, and that was who he was. So maybe he's tapping into that a little bit, but you're right, it's not until Ted and Robin show up that he starts being kind of a dick.
Yes.
Because the entire time he's been volunteering before that, everyone likes him. He's just put on the good Barney face, like a mask or, a costume or whatever you're going to think. He just puts on that persona, and he's just friendly and smiley and really helpful. And it's interesting, and Ted and Robin being there seem to throw him out of it.
You could tell that Barney is enjoying the fact that Ted and Robin don't understand what's going on.
Yes, and they clearly don't, and yeah, he's digging it. So Barney's helping out. Ted and Robin are sort of just milling around at this point. They haven't found anywhere where they can help. Nobody needs their help yet. And Barney comes back and says that he has a soul boner from all the good that he's doing.
Yes. Barney says it's the best feeling in the world. And Robin reminds him that yesterday, Barney said the best feeling in the world was getting his toe sucked. And then requested a high five with his foot.
That is one of the grossest things said in the show to me. Like, be into whatever you're into and all that. It's like, it's the getting the toe sucked and then requesting a high five with his foot. And that's bothersome to me. There's a lot of gross things said on the show because of Barney, and I think that's top 5.
Yeah, I love that they gave that line to Robin, because she can deliver it with this kind of disgust that I don't think Ted could have. But we get more from Ted and Robin, and they're kind of flirting a little bit, but Robin diffuses any sort of idea that they're going to be have this sexual tension by playing Have You Met Ted? And introduces Ted to Amanda, who is one of the other volunteers at the shelter.
Yeah, and I like that when Robin hears Amanda ask about Ted's girlfriend, Robin, she's right there. She swoops in as a good wingman. She seems to go a little bit over the top with it, but Amanda doesn't seem to care. Actually, Ted might have gotten a date or gotten somewhere with Amanda if he didn't care later that she was stealing.
Right.
But, yeah, Robin swoops in a little over the top, but she's a good wing woman.
Yeah, in sharp contrast to Season 6, Episode 2, where she really fucks up the wing woman thing. That's the episode where they're moving stuff out of Loretta's house, and Robin tries to set Ted up with one of her coworkers and just oversells him, undersells him, just like says he's the greatest lover in the world. Like, well, no, he's actually kind of bad. No, he will definitely get you where you need to go.
Yes, I do love that. I don't remember all the things that she said, but I did love that. It's like, yeah, it ended up sounding like very middling. Yes. You know, it's like, he will get you where you need to go. It's like, well, I mean, I don't know. There are worse places. Not getting you where you need to go would be worse. But yeah, it's like overselling, underselling.
He is perfectly adequate in the sack.
Right. No, and see, that doesn't sound very good either. No.
Well, Ted finds out pretty quickly that the food he's been sorting with Amanda is actually going to Amanda's house, not the needy.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm kind of on Amanda's side here. Like, she mentions things like truffle oil, and there's the portobello mushrooms that are like fresh. They're not like dehydrated or canned. So like, you know, what's the shelter going to do with truffle oil? What are they going to do with a big bag of mushrooms? Like, why not split some of that up with the volunteers? I mean, they kind of deserve it.
I am pretty torn on it. I think that I'll have more to say about it a little bit further into the episode.
A little while later, Ted and Robin discover Barney's private personal business. The whole him being sentenced to community service thing. And because why, Chris?
That'd be because Barney peed on a church.
Yes. Apparently that's illegal.
He did not know that it was a church because he was drunk.
Right. And I love that line of rationalization. Like, I am totally not responsible for this. But he gets sentenced to community service, but he's doing it, and he's kicking ass at it, BT-dub. And this sort of starts to mock Ted and Robin for them not doing anything and actively stealing, or being a part of it. And that flips a switch in Ted. And he tries to turn in Amanda to Kendall, the volunteer coordinator. Kendall, turns out, is totally on board with stealing, at least the portobello mushrooms. And so Ted sort of freaks out a little. He grabs the mushrooms, he runs out into the shelter where they're serving the food, and he starts tossing them around the room. And you know what I was thinking, Chris? You know what I was thinking?
What were you thinking, James?
I was thinking most of those mushrooms probably ended up on the ground.
Yeah, I don't feel good about the stealing. You do have a point in my mind when it comes to not wasting food. I mean, I would rather food get quote-unquote stolen and enjoyed rather than rotting in the trash because they went on the floor or because nobody wanted them and they're just unused for perfectly good food. It is something that I dislike about how we deal with food in this country. But I will say that I think that Barney is responsible for his own undoing. The food thing aside, though he does kick ass when his friends aren't there, when his friends are there, he gloats about all the good he's doing and then berates Ted multiple times for stealing and questions his moral compass. And that sets Ted off on his mushroom-slinging Robin Hooding.
Yeah.
And I think if Barney hadn't pushed Ted so hard, maybe he would have gotten to finish out his community service in the soup kitchen.
Yeah, but he doesn't, so they get kicked out for throwing the mushrooms, and this totally screws over Barney, or at least, according to Barney, it totally screws him over.
Mm-hmm.
And so he lays a guilt trip on Ted, and his attitude changes so dramatically. They have another great screaming line here, where Barney's screaming, "I was volunteer of the year!" And like the very next breath, he's like, Ted, I'm glad you asked. Let's go to the Lusty Leopard.
Yeah, I feel like this is my crazy theory of the week. I don't think it's that crazy. It's that Barney was okay with finishing out the last bit of his community service, stabbing trash alongside the freeway. His goal this evening was to get Ted and Robin to the strip club, and it all worked like clockwork. Yes. Berate Ted until he does something Ted. He Ted's out.
Yeah,
over the situation, and then he'll apologize and ask if there's anything he can do to make it up to Barney, and just like a switch flips, and Barney's like, "Yeah, glad you asked. Let's go to the strip club." And Ted does not look like he's having any fun there.
By contrast, Robin and Barney seem pretty happy there. I mean, Robin's surprisingly happy at the strip club, considering later when she's dating Barney that she's totally against strip clubs. She finds them disgusting. But here she seems very happy.
Yeah, I do think that she only disliked them because she was dating Barney at the time.
Yeah.
There's a history with strip clubs.
So now, instead of helping out the shelter, Ted, Barney, and Robin are at the Lusty Leopard. And Ted is looking kind of depressed or entranced. He's not like really like staring at the strippers, or the dancers, I should say. And Robin sort of tries to cheer him up. It's like, you're a good guy. And it's not until now that we learn that the reason, at least part of the reason maybe why Ted flipped out, is that at work, his project is working on a executive lounge for a tobacco company. And that makes him feel like in the fight against cancer, he's on the side of cancer.
Right, and that's not the side that you want to be on, kids. But, yeah, I think that could be part of... And Barney wouldn't have known that, or he might have. I guess maybe he could have. But Ted having that in the back of his mind, that, like, he's not doing any good, or he's actively doing bad. Mm-hmm. And then to have Barney say, "When was the last time you did anything good?" And then that's when you see, like, Ted snap and throw the mushrooms. I think that's definitely what caused it. Now, whether or not Barney knew that Ted was working on the executive lounge, we don't know.
I buy your theory that Barney orchestrated the whole thing to get them to the strip club, but I don't think Barney is quite cruel enough to say those things to Ted, knowing how he felt about working for the tobacco industry, basically. Like, Ted is depressed about his station in life in a lot of episodes, but this is specifically about being forced to compromise his morals for a paycheck, essentially, which I can definitely relate to.
Well, Barney has no problem compromising his morals for a paycheck. At least that's what it appears throughout the entire show.
Yeah.
Actually, the only thing that makes it sort of flip on its head at the end is that you find out that he's working for the feds.
Yeah.
And so it's like he probably wasn't actively working with the North Koreans without also giving all of that information to the feds. But I'm not as convinced as you that Barney wouldn't be that cruel to Ted. We do see him do cruel things periodically. I will give you this. I think it's 50-50.
Yeah.
I think it's a coin toss on whether or not Barney would or could be that cruel.
Okay. I'll take those odds. So Barney has an idea for Ted to actually help someone, and that is to help a homeless gentleman named Walter by buying him a lap dance.
Yeah, and he's been to 3 shelter dinners already, so he's very full. He doesn't want the buffet at the strip club. He couldn't possibly eat another bite.
And Ted does it. I mean, he kind of hems and haws, but he ultimately does do something good. He definitely brings a little bit of pleasure and joy to Walter's life, which we can imagine is not a glamorous or happy life. And if you think about it, he's doing a good thing for the dancer as well, because we know Ted's probably not the kind of guy who's going to get a lap dance, at least not unless he's drunk. So, I mean, and otherwise he's just taking up space, taking that money home. wherein he could give it to a dancer, and who knows what she's going to use it on? Like, I don't know, braces for a kid or something.
Could be, yeah. It's true. He is taking up space there. He does eventually get the buffet, so he does give them a little bit of money, but I'm sure that money doesn't go to the dancers.
Right.
It goes to the boss man. But, yep, so speaking of the buffet, he's standing at the buffet. A dancer introduces herself to him, says her name's Amber, says her name's Ted, says her name's Tracy. He's still Ted. It's weird, it's awkward, it seems pointless until Ted says, "And kids, that's the true story of How I Met Your Mother." And they freak out. And then he's like, "No, I'm just kidding." And he'll do that again. But this one was very early on in the series. And like for that one split second, you're like, "Wait a second, really?" No, okay. No, probably shouldn't have believed that. The kids shouldn't have believed that. But we do get to learn the name.
Yeah, if they got canceled after 9 episodes, that would have been canon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so what are Lily and Marshall up to?
Well, we get some opening shots of a small town, and we get some cheesy country western music playing during the stock footage.
Yeah, and they set the scene at the Eriksen house with a comically oversized wheel of cheese.
Yeah.
And everything sort of is giant-sized in this episode. The mayonnaise, the Eriksens themselves, the freaking spoon that Lily uses to scoop the mayonnaise out.
Yes, everything is gigantic. Either Lily is the right size and she is in a land of giants, or they are all normal size and she is very small. You can't really tell.
I mean, they're even taller than the refrigerator if you see that first scene.
Well, and Marvin has to duck in the doorway in the place that he grew up in.
Right.
The doorways aren't tall enough for them. So that's weird, right? Like living in a place where you don't fit through your own doors.
Yeah. Speaking of Marcus, and the 2 siblings both have wives or girlfriends in this episode. Never seen again.
Yep, that's weird.
Oh, and another lovely scene introducing Lily. Well, Lily's met the family, we're assuming. But as the audience were being introduced to the Eriksens, Marcus beans Lily in the head with his basketball, knocking her backwards after she insults his manhood. I kind of like that Lily's kind of, she can take some crap and she gives it back, but Marcus at the same time is trying to be a little playful, but also is a little too rough.
Yeah, it looked like he might be a big man with a small ego.
Small ego?
Yeah. Yeah, for such a tall man, Marcus seems like he's a very small man. It's like Lily just casually, being playful and teasing him. Like he looks like he's angry.
Yeah.
And then beans her.
Right.
With the ball. Luckily, in the shot where it hits her, it looks like it was sort of just gently tossed up towards her. Not like when Marcus is throwing it at her like a gut check. But he seemed like he can't take it.
No.
He dish it out, but he can't take it.
Yeah, he's not a good sport. So the boys go out to play baseball, and the ladies are in the kitchen doing the cooking. And Mrs. Eriksen, or I should say Judy Eriksen, reveals the Mrs. Eriksen apron that she's prepared for not only Lily, but all the other women in the family.
Yeah, they look excited. The other women, the other wives, look excited because it's like there's a new person that's getting let into their club. Yeah, exactly. But it makes Lily uncomfortable, and we don't get to find out why in this scene.
Yeah, and Lily, she wants to be part of the group. She offers to make this gourmet salad, a frise and endive salad with the coriander, lime, vinaigrettes, but she's not fitting in because Judy has this look on her face like she's disturbed by those series of strange words. And the other 2 Mrs. Eriksens, like they're also disturbed. One even says something like, "That's not American."
Yeah, this is an American holiday.
Yeah.
So Lily doesn't fit in because she's a little too East Coast.
Yeah.
And
big city.
Marshall comes in. They're at halftime for the baseball game.
Yeah.
Halftime and how long it lasts are as made up as every other rule.
Yes. Yeah, Marshall just comes in long enough for him to have this little exchange with Lily where she kind of wants him to stay, but Marshall's being pulled back outside by his father, so Marshall's a little pulled from both ends, but Lily sees this, says, you go outside, you have fun. So she's being the bigger man, essentially, in this situation. She's making the sacrifice to stay in the kitchen and make this disgusting 7-layer salad with 16 cups of mayonnaise.
Yep, not 6 cups, 16.
That's right.
So as Lily finishes the salad, it looks like it has ground beef, shredded carrots. Looked like to me like it was cabbage.
I thought sliced red onion.
It could be. I think I'd rather have the cabbage, but that's just a personal preference. I think that the red onion would just be awful in that. Definitely Funyuns, the gummy bear layer, and then it's crowned with a majestic golden crumble of potato chips.
Yeah, as I was watching this the second time with you, I thought, is this like an homage to Rachel's English trifle from Friends?
Right. It's like the shepherd's pie stuck together with the other page, so it's got ground beef and whipped cream and strawberry jam and lady fingers. Yes. And Joey doesn't care and eats all of it. It's all delicious to him.
Yeah.
They're all things that he'd like.
I mean, the comparisons between the two shows have already been made by this point, so why not?
Yeah, I agree. So during the shot, Judy asks Lily about having a baby.
Yeah. Seems
like a reasonable thing to ask. Mm-hmm. Actually, would argue that it's not. That it is not a thing that in the 21st century that you're supposed to ask people about. At least that's, what I hear lately, on the street.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep my ear to the street. That's what people are saying. Don't ask people about when they're going to have a baby. Maybe they can't. Maybe they don't want to. Don't ask them. That's what people say. But anyway, Judy asks anyway.
Yeah, and this is where we learn that Lily is 6 days late on her period. And if you remember the previous episode, The Duel, Marshall says they're not that careful with their birth control. So maybe she is pregnant.
Maybe she is. And they talk about like baby weights, and one of the babies was 15 pounds, average being about 7.5. And I want to say every baby weight that I've heard from someone that I know was under 11. Mm-hmm. I've heard some like 10s and some high 10s. That's very uncommon. I'm guessing that a 15-pound baby is extremely uncommon and probably dangerous for the mother and the baby.
Well, at least in humans.
Well, yeah. Lily's not that big either, though.
Yeah, she's tiny.
So I don't think a 15-pounder would be good for her body.
As the evening continues, they all sit down to dinner, and before the turkey is carved, the conversation turns to Lily keeping her own last name, Aldrin.
Yes, because Marvin Sr. Says that she's cool. She's a future Mrs. Eriksen.
Yeah.
This is not technically, or not literally.
Not only that, she wants her children to grow up in New York. Which the rest of the family just finds hilarious. They literally laugh out loud.
They laugh in her face.
Yes.
Yeah, it is true. Which, it's crappy. I'd say that overall, just like looking at the whole episode, I think that they are very good people overall.
Yeah.
That was not a fine moment for a single one of the Eriksens. That they would laugh at the idea that, I mean, Ted even makes the argument in a later season that's like, lots of kids grow up in New York and they turn out just fine. Like, there's nothing about that should be laughable. Like, they would somehow have less.
It's a little too sitcom-y, cartoony sort of reaction. Like, ho-ho! A child in New York! Ha-ha!
Yes. Oh, my.
Oh.
But Judy appears to look upset because of the apron that she made. I don't exactly know why. I'm not going to say that I know what feeling she's feeling there. But something about the apron is bothering her.
She just worked really hard on it.
That could be it. That could be all it is. Like, I worked really hard on this apron, this gesture of love to invite you into the family. It doesn't even have the right name on it because you're progressive.
It's because she doesn't really love him.
It could be, or it could be that she doesn't want to further patriarchy.
Patriarchy? The disagreement turns into an argument, and Lily leaves, apparently stealing one of the cars from the Eriksens' garage.
Yeah, because they don't have the Fiero.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a rental car. But anyway, the next scene we see with Lily is she's at this like 7-Eleven-ish bodega somewhere down the road, and in true How I Met Your Mother fashion, a character reveals his or her true feelings or greatest fears by yelling them out at some other character.
Yeah, this one's a stranger.
Yeah, this time, Lily's yelling at the Quick Stop guy that she's afraid for her future. She's afraid of living a life in a suburban nightmare. She's afraid of a giant baby ripping up her cooch.
Yeah, she is afraid of that.
Chris, let me ask you this. Quick Stop guy kind of has this smirk on his face when Lily asks him if she can use the bathroom. He says no, and then takes a sip out of a big gulp with a little smirk on his face. Like, was he lying? What's going on there?
I didn't get the impression that he was lying. That would make sense. It's like, oh, what do you do when you have to use the bathroom? And he takes a sip. I hold it. Like, no, you don't. You're just about to finish off 60 ounces of pop. You don't hold it all shift. But I actually didn't think that. I didn't think that he was lying. I just thought that he was a cuckoo. And that maybe he just pees behind the building. Maybe he does literally hold it and he's just a weirdo. But yeah, it's like if he does go pee behind the building, that would be extra lame because Lily ends up getting arrested for doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. And this is one of the few times where they cut between the two stories and there's a joke about it. Back in New York, Ted's at the strip club and he says, seriously, who gets arrested for public urination? Smash cut to Minnesota and Marshall gets a phone call. Who is it? Who's on the other line? It's Lily. She's been arrested. What for? Public urination.
So now 2 members of the gang have been arrested for public urination. That's 2 more than most gangs.
Yeah. And, I wanted to know if public urination is really an arrestable offense. I mean, I guess cops could arrest you for anything that's illegal, but doesn't it seem like something that would be like a ticket, walk away type situation?
Probably. I mean, I don't know enough about that, and it probably varies from region to region, but I feel like Pete may have either been very bored or upset or both that he had to work Thanksgiving.
Yeah, there may be, or maybe Lily was freaking out a little and Pete arrested her as sort of a public safety officer type of thing.
Right. Well, let's give her some time in the tank.
Yeah.
And she can cool off. But it is funny because Marshall comes down there and he knows Pete by name.
Yeah. And speaking of doing time, she's doing the hard time in the tank has made her very introspective very quickly. In the time it took Marshall to arrive, she's become remorseful and embarrassed.
Yeah, and before Marshall asks the tough questions about why Lily left dinner, drove 3 miles, and took a pee behind a convenience store, he does something else, and he asks if she's all right and says that he's glad that she's safe. And he doesn't rip into her for embarrassing him in his tiny hometown that's so small that he knows everyone by name. I thought that was nice.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. That is a pretty nice, touching moment. This scene with them in the jail cell has some great scenes between the two of them. Marshall, for perhaps the first time ever in their relationship, and maybe the last time in the series, says that he would want to move to St. Cloud. He'd want to live there again. And he lists off all the things that makes him different from New Yorkers. And, I'm Funyuns, I'm Basque Ice Ball. He's just listing off his identity, his heritage.
Yeah, it reminded me of a later season in Stella's Basement where Marshall talks about not fitting into New York. Literally, not fitting in New York. He likes the wide aisles and the big box stores of Jersey. Jersey probably to him feels like a Minnesota-y New York.
Yeah, I thought of that too. Marshall makes a comment about making their own family and making it, their own family, not like Marshall's family, not like Lily's family. And as we watch the series, we learn more about Lily's family, and we know that they're very different. Lily hates her dad. She's apparently very estranged with her mother. Very little is known about her extended family. She doesn't have any siblings. Marshall, by contrast, has these 2 brothers that he's close with who were antagonistic with him. He's idolizes his father. It's a very different family dynamic that they came from.
It's true. So it would make sense to make their own.
Yeah.
To blend those ideas together into something that works for them instead of trying to just get all your ideas of how a relationship works by looking at one or the other.
Yeah.
So Pete, the cop or prison guard or both, or jail guard or whatever. We don't know what his role is. Sheriff.
Yeah, he's the one police officer who fills all roles.
He ruins this like sweet moment by just shouting out that it's negative.
Yeah, it's negative.
So,
hey!
So we can just move forward.
Yes.
No, we don't have to, like, the tension has been broken.
Yeah.
Because the audience is like, are you pregnant or not? Okay, thanks, Pete.
Yeah. As we get back to the Eriksens, we notice that the rest of the family waited for Lily to get back before they ate. And even though they were kind of making fun of Midwesterners in this episode, I kind of like that. Like, it makes me wonder, would New Yorkers have done that?
Yeah, waited for them to come back to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably not. I actually didn't notice that. What I did notice is that they made a huge dent in Lily's salad.
Yes.
It looks like they've made it through about 12 cups of mayonnaise between the group there.
There's a lot of people on that table, but that's still a lot of mayonnaise.
It's a lot of mayonnaise.
A lot of guest stars in this episode, Chris.
Yep, because we get to see the entire Eriksen clan. So
Susie Plaxton plays Judy Eriksen. She's had many roles.
we've got Bill Fagerbach as Marvin Eriksen Sr.
Most memorable role besides this, probably in Coach.
Yep, Dauber.
Ned Rolsma as Marcus. He comes back in quite a few episodes.
We've got Robert Michael Ryan. He plays Marvin Eriksen Jr. He comes back for several episodes, but not quite as many as Marcus.
Yeah, that's true. Chris, any lines from this episode that you find yourself quoting or repeating often?
Not quoting or repeating, but I do remember like the NPH delivery of the Volunteer of the Year! And just the way that he delivers that. That's just, I don't know. It's always golden when he delivers a line like that.
I really like the running gag of that food was for the homeless. I know, and I'm starving. So as we mentioned before, this is the first time we get to see St. Cloud and the Eriksens on screen.
And as we said, it's the first time where Robin is mentioned as Canadian.
Yeah.
Very important for the rest of the show. It happens here first. So there are actually several episodes in before we finally get that information. Makes me wonder if they had not yet decided where home was.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sets.
There are. Not only do we have the Eriksen house, we have the jail cell, Quick Stop, and in New York we've got the Lusty Leopard and the shelter.
Yep. They do a lot of sets in this usually, but that seems like it seems like a lot of them, especially for ones that quite a few of those aren't going to come back. And the shelter's not going to come back, Quick Stop's not going to come back, and the jail cell's not going to come back. They could reuse the Eriksen house sets later, but I tell you what, those didn't look the same as when they go back there, because there's been plenty of time there in later seasons, and it doesn't look the same. It's not like the same entryway, it's not the same kitchen, it's like we don't get to see Marshall's bedroom, which is featured a lot in at least the episode with Honey.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like the same set, but it is the Eriksen house, regardless of whether they change sets or not.
Right.
Lusty Leopard will be back there.
Oh, yes. So what was Ted up to in this episode?
He's feeling bad because he's on the side of cancer and having a rough time trying to do some good. Ultimately, the best thing that he can do is give a lap dance to a homeless man.
Well, I mean, you can help one person.
That's all it takes?
Yeah. It's better than nothing.
Make the world a better place.
He wanted to help people, so he went to the shelter, didn't actually help anyone there, and if anything, he actually hurt the volunteers who were actually there to help people. So at least he bought Walter a lap dance.
And so we've got Robin. I felt like she was just trying to keep Ted company, because she wasn't going to go home, because it's not a holiday for her.
Yeah.
She might have had a little time off, because working for Metro News 1, she might just get some time off around those days. But actually, pretty sure when I've watched the news on holidays, those people are there.
Yeah.
Like, they might not go in for as long, and they might phone in their interviews and their weather, might rush through it so they can, get out of there and go back to their families. But she might not have had that much to do. But maybe not enough time to go home, even if she wanted to.
Yeah, if you've ever watched the local news on a holiday, you know that the people behind the desk on the holiday are not the people behind the desk most of the week.
Oh,
so
okay.
if anything, Robin should have been working. That should have been her day to be the fill-in anchor.
Right, which would have actually been the A story in this, because that would be like the first time that's happened. But yeah, whether she had the time off or not, she doesn't go back home. But she feels bad for Ted because he has to work on Friday, so he doesn't have enough time to go home to Cleveland. So she keeps him company and tries to do some wing-womaning for him.
Lily, meanwhile, this is an episode of fear for her, I think. Like, not only the fear of the pregnancy, but also of, like, her future, her family's future.
She does, yeah. Fear is her theme in this. We've got Marshall. He is enjoying being home. It's been, they say it's since last Christmas, so it's like 11 months. He hasn't been there in quite a while. That's maybe not normal for him. The way they say it, it made me feel like that's uncommon. So he's enjoying it. He's eating up the Basque ice ball. He's really
mayonnaise.
Enjoying spending time and mayonnaise, literally eating mayonnaise. And he's excited that he gets to play with his dad and his brothers and just get back to the way things were growing up.
Yeah, he goes Minnesota.
It's a little Revertigo.
Yes. Barney, meanwhile, is kind of all over the map. Like, he's enjoying pulling one over on his friends because they don't know what's going on. But at the same time, he's pretty sincere, I think, in helping the needy. But he's also feels hurt that Ted messed up his gig, but maybe he isn't. And, I don't really know how to sum up Barney in this episode.
Yeah, I think that he's keeping a lot of things close to the chest, and we'll just never really know his true motivations.
Yeah. So, Chris, do you have a life lesson for this episode?
I do. I think that holidays can be really stressful for people, and I want to recommend that you try to focus on either what's going right or focus on your family's best qualities. And as always, don't dwell on the negative during the holidays.
Good advice. My advice would be ignore your instincts and go for the buffet at the strip club. So that's it, folks. How did you feel about this episode? Let us know what you think by emailing us at himyumsuperfans@gmail.com.
Yeah, each week James and I get so much out of discussing the episode. We really enjoy doing this, and we hope you enjoy it too.
Join our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/group/himyumsuperfans, and leave us a message there. Like, what do you think about Amanda and the mushrooms? Was she justified? Let us know.
And if you like the show, the best way to help us out is to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. You don't have to write a review.
But if you want, give us a review of the Thankstini.
And give us that 5 stars. It really helps us with getting discovered and helps us grow our audience so we can keep making this show.
Please tell your friends about this show, like us on Facebook, and hit that share button when we post an episode. That'll really help us out.
Join us next week when we get to do one of my all-time favorite episodes, The Pineapple Incident.
Damn it, Trudy, get to the pineapple!
Those are for the hungry.
I know. And I'm starving.